Hi, my name is Tessie Lim, and I have with me today psychologist Dr. Michael Hall. We're going into 2 days of training with Dr. Michael Hall, master trainer, psychologist, and master coach. Now, through talking with Dr. Hall, we wanted to create for you a special training that enables you to benefit from Dr. Hall's specialty. Now, these are self-actualization psychology, to coaching, and meta-coaching at that, and how that is applied to leadership. Through talking with Dr. Hall, we wanted to create for you a special training that enables you to benefit from Dr. Hall's specialty. Now, these are self-actualization psychology, to coaching, and meta-coaching at that, and how that is applied to leadership. Leadership as in leadership of persons, leadership in companies, leadership in communities, and leadership of countries. Dr. Hall, before I even met you, I went to this workshop and I learned this thing called Neuro-Semantics. Now I'm using this neurosemantic thing to be more productive at work. Can you explain to us what that actually is, this Neuro-Semantics?
It means about meaning and performing meaning, and it also means about adding rich meanings to your performance. Semantics is meaning, neurology refers to our physical body and our emotions and how we use our body. And so neurosemantics is about whatever you're doing, adding rich meanings to it, and then taking the meanings that are meaningful, significant, important, valuable to us, and turning it into action so we can actually perform it in the real world.
So that's a training in itself. When you're doing something, then stepping away from it and saying, is this the most effective thing to do?
Yeah.
Or how should I be doing this? How should I be thinking?
Yeah.
If I actually wanted something like satisfaction or happiness, or does that come naturally?
I don't think it comes naturally. I think it is a trained and learned or coached experience. Neurosemantics is about mindfulness. So it's not just taking thoughts and feelings and running with it, but having awareness, and so stepping back from ourselves to be aware. And we've got a special kind of consciousness called self-reflexive consciousness, and most people don't use it very well. So if we can step back and reflect upon what am I thinking, what am I feeling, and then running quality control, is this useful, is this empowering for me as a person, is this enhancing the way I'm living my life? So the first step, I would say, in doing neurosemantics is being able to become aware of our awareness and then choosing it. So the choice then would be the second step. What am I choosing to think? And what is that choosing to feel? And probably the third step with regard to all of this is the awareness I bring to myself, is it judgmental? Am I putting myself in conflict with me, or am I bringing an awareness so I can just be witnessing and choosing? What endangers most people about self-reflexive consciousness is that they step back, as it were, notice themselves, and then they judge themselves. And they essentially turn energy against themselves. Now they're in internal conflict, and whatever they were doing is just diminished in quality.
So very quickly, it's awareness of self, and then the decision-making or the choice.
The choice.
And then the quality controlling of that whole exercise.
Yeah.
If I wanted to be as prolific a writer as you and as successful as you as a leader, what would I have to do? What would I have to be thinking? What would I have to be believing about myself to be able to put out so much out there?
Well, probably step one would be to have your own, have vision, be clear about your vision, be passionate about it, and committing yourself to it. That if you're passionate about and then giving yourself to it, regardless of what others say, regardless of the effort it's going to take, it's just a matter of time.
So firstly, it's a vision for ourselves, because you become self-reflexive in your awareness of self, and then you have to be aware of how that pushes out to the world and how you deal with other people about that. So what is your vision? You started the International Society for Neuro-Semantics. What is that? And what is your vision for all of what you're doing?
Our vision is, first of all, at the simplest level, people running their own brains. Because if you're not running your own brain, then who is? And once you can run your own brain, manage your own states, then you can choose your path. And that begins the process we call self-actualization, you being the best version of you.
And what's significant about that if your movement, if your vision actually succeeds?
We all have this drive. Built within us is the drive to be our best self, to actualize the potentials that are there. And it's work, it's effort, but it's the challenge, it's the adventure of life. It's the human adventure to be more than we are now and to become all that we can become. And that if we sell ourselves short, if we sell our human nature short and just be a clone of what somebody else thinks we should live our life, then we're not really living. There's not that energy and vitality. But if everybody is doing that, then what we add to the human race and the kind of planet we can have.
So you've written this book, Self-Actualizing Psychology, Self-Actualization Psychology, actually. And does it mean that one of us who wants to follow this way of life, do we have to be a psychologist to understand this? We just need to be to unleash ourselves from this bondage of fear.
Yeah. My work is built upon Abraham Maslow's work. Abraham Maslow was the original pioneer who started thinking about what are the possibilities of human nature. And he said, we've studied the sick side of human nature. We've studied how people can go wrong and human nature can be messed up. What about the best? What is possible? And if we study the healthiest of human beings. So studying the bright side of human nature, he kept saying we've sold human nature short. And so a person doesn't have to be a psychologist, but we do have to change some of our views about human nature, to change it from the dark side of what can go wrong and how people then can be hurtful to what can go right and how can I facilitate that in myself. And believing, it all begins with believing that there are possibilities.
So that belief, if we were to spread that belief and enable others or enrich their meanings, and empower them with their own self-capability. And to stand in the spotlight is a whole paradigm shift, because we're always standing behind people we consider leaders, people who we consider our elders. And now we're telling them, well, stand in the spotlight, shine. In this culture, Dr. Hall, oftentimes we just have to do what our bosses tell us. We do what our parents tell us. Otherwise, you're not being a filial child. You're not being a good employee. We're being insubordinate, rude even. Courtesy here is keeping quiet, staying at the back, not speaking well of your talents, so that the boss gets to choose and you don't get to show off. How could you tell a group of people who suffer army general style leadership that they can be their best self when they feel they don't even have space to be who they are?
So the first problem you're describing is not a problem of the boss or even the structure. The first problem is a problem of the individual person who has now accepted and bought into, I don't have choice, I can't enjoy it, I can't add meanings to it. So if we cannot change the circumstance at this moment, we could at least have a great time. If you're running your own brain. So people like Viktor Frankl in a concentration camp, he discovered that they can take everything away. In fact, he wrote this in Man's Search for Meaning. They can take everything away from me, but they cannot take away my ultimate freedom, my choice, and especially my choice to hate them. They cannot make me hate them. Well, this is not a victim speaking. This is not a passive dependent person speaking. He couldn't at that moment change his circumstances, but he could change his attitude. And so the first thing starts with attitude. And once you change your attitude, then you can change systems. And then we can have a way of talking and communicating and relating to bosses, to command and control bosses, that makes their style of doing things irrelevant and redundant.
Your next book, Dr. Hall, is Self-Actualization Psychology Applied to Leadership. So what's that about?